A very full evening lies ahead of us, with many interesting and distinguished guests. We will hear about the history of the IDM, about how it all started in 1953, and how the institute developed. We will also hear about the special program of the IDM this year, and we will take a look into the future of the IDM and of our region. In case you want to post about the event on your social media accounts, we will be very happy if you use the hashtags locating the future or 70 years IDM. And now, to dive right into it, let's start. Our first speaker of the evening will address the audience with some introductory words in German. I want to welcome the chairman of the IDM and rector of the University for Continuing Education and Defense, Rector Friedrich.
Herzlichen Dank. Sehr geehrte Damen und Herren, geschätzte Gäste unserer heutigen Veranstaltung, herzlich willkommen zu unserer Jubiläumsveranstaltung 70 Jahre Institut für den Donauraum und Mitteleuropa, kurz IDM. Als Vorstandsvorsitzender freue ich mich sehr, so viele Gäste begrüßen zu dürfen, Ehrengäste, Mitglieder des Vorstands, Mitglieder des Vereins und darüber hinaus viele am Donauraum und an den Aktivitäten des Instituts Interessierte, die noch nicht Mitglied sind. Sehr geehrte Damen und Herren, heute eine hervorragende Gelegenheit beizutreten, Formulare selbstverständlich liegen auf. Heute, genau heute, vor 70 Jahren, am 5. Dezember 1953, wurde das Institut, damals noch in Salzburg, gegründet. Auf die Geschichte der erfolgreichen Entwicklungen und die zukünftigen Wege wird noch einzugehen sein. Alle diese Entwicklungen sind aber für einen gemeinnützigen Verein nur mit vielfältiger Unterstützung möglich. Daher ist es mir ein besonderes Bedürfnis, einige unserer Unterstützerinnen auch persönlich zu begrüßen. Wir sind hier heute an einem sehr geschichtsträchtigen Ort, dem Fall in Niederösterreich. Und das hat einen guten Grund. Das Land Niederösterreich unterstützt das IDM seit vielen Jahren. Wir arbeiten intensiv zusammen, insbesondere auch in der AG Donauländer und im Europaforum Wachau. Daher freue ich mich sehr, dass heute in Vertretung der Landeshauptfrau Johanna Mikl-Leitner der Präsident des Niederösterreichischen Landtages Karl Wilfing bei uns ist. Herzlich willkommen und vielen Dank, vor allem auch für die kulinarische Unterstützung des heutigen Abends. Die Entwicklung des IDM wurde und wird seit Jahrzehnten begleitet und unterstützt vom Wissenschaftsministerium, wie immer es gerade hieß oder heißt. Bundesminister Polaschek kann leider heute persönlich nicht bei uns sein. Eine Videobotschaft wird folgen. Umso mehr freue ich mich, dass in Vertretung des Herrn Bundesministers heute unser Mann im Wissenschaftsministerium, unser regelmäßiger und direkter Gesprächspartner, Minister Herbert Buchbauer, bei uns ist. Herzlich willkommen. Der Mission des IDM entsprechend bieten wir seit 70 Jahren ein breites Spektrum an Expertise aus der gesamten Region. Wir bieten hier eine Plattform fundierten Wissens, fungieren als Drehscheibe für ein demokratisches und widerstandsfähiges Europa und leben so regionale Zusammenarbeit. Und dabei ist es uns wichtig, nicht nur über diese Region zu sprechen, sondern auch den Austausch mit den Akteurinnen in der Region zu pflegen. Zum Beispiel mit den Mitgliedern des Internationalen Rates, die aus der Region kommen und in der Region leben. Dazu später aber unser Direktor Sebastian Schäffer. Besonders wichtig ist uns in diesem Zusammenhang auch der regelmäßige Austausch mit den Botschafterinnen, insbesondere in unserer Zielregion. Daher ist es mir eine besondere Freude, heute begrüßen zu dürfen, in der alphabetischen Reihenfolge der Landesnamen, Ihre Exzellenz, Frau Edith Silagine Batorfi, herzlich willkommen. Sehr geehrte Damen und Herren, eine besondere Freude ist es mir, den Keynote-Speaker des heutigen Abends ganz besonders zu begrüßen, den Sonderbeauftragten und Koordinator für die Nachbarschaftspolitik und die außenpolitische Dimension des Donauraums im Bundesministerium für europäische und internationale Angelegenheiten und früheren niederösterreichischen Landesrat für Wohnbau, Arbeitsmarkt und internationale Beziehungen. Herr Botschafter Martin Eichtinger, vielen Dank für deine Bereitschaft. Herzlichen Dank. Ein besonderes Anliegen ist es, mir jetzt an diesem Abend zum 70-jährigen Jubiläum des Instituts jene besonders zu begrüßen, denen die Aktivitäten des IDM ein besonderes tägliches Anliegen sind. Und wir haben heute in der Generalversammlung schon von den eindrucksvollen Ergebnissen ihres täglichen Tuns und ihres täglichen Engagements gehört. Das sind die KollegInnen im Team des IDM. Heißen Sie herzlich willkommen in alphabetischer Reihenfolge. Daniela Apeini, Gloria Bezeri, Sophia Beiter, Daria Benic, Kinga Bruczynska, Kamila Bogdanova, Lukas Dekor, Jack Gill, Melanie Jainko, Petra Kielberger, Daniel Martinek, Sebastian Schäffer, Astrid Schardinski, Malvina Thalig, Rebecca Thorn und Peter Technik. Namens des Vorstandes des IDM vielen herzlichen Dank für Ihr Engagement für die Aktivitäten des IDM, gerade auch und besonders bei der inhaltlichen und organisatorischen Vorbereitung der heutigen Veranstaltung. Zeigen Sie sich! Sie wissen ja, die Geschichte des IDM beginnt im Jahr 1953, damals am 5. Dezember, nach dem Ende des Zweiten Weltkriegs, kurz vor dem Beginn des Kalten Kriegs zwischen Ost und West und noch während der Besatzung Österreichs durch die Siegermächte des Zweiten Weltkriegs, erkannte der österreichische Diplomat und Politiker Theodor von Nordhostel die Bedeutung des Donauraums für die Entwicklung eines friedlichen, geeinten und wohlhabenden Europas in der Zukunft und gründete in Salzburg das Forschungsinstitut für Fragen des Donauraums. In Salzburg, wohlgemerkt, weil eben der sich abzeichnende eiserne Vorhang sehr nah an Wien war und Österreich noch unter den Alliierten aufgeteilt war. Ostösterreich war zudem im russischen Sektor und man befürchtete Einflussnahme Russlands. Und hier im ersten Bezirk fuhr er noch der Jeep mit den amerikanischen, britischen, französischen und Sowjetsoldaten zum monatlichen Wechsel der Zuständigkeit. Der Alsergrund, der heutige Sitz des IDM, befand sich übrigens im amerikanischen Sektor, also insofern auf der sicheren Seite. Nach der wiedererlangten Souveränität Österreichs übersiedelte das Institut bald in die Bundeshauptstadt und war dann 3 Jahrzehnte lang die einzige wissenschaftliche Einrichtung im Land, die sich in dem Kontext spezifisch mit dem Donauraum auseinandersetzte und dabei auch immer einen Blick hinter den eisernen Vorhang wagte. Nach den weiteren Vorsitzenden, Professor Felix Ermakora und Professor Norbert Leser, übernahm Erhard Busek 1995 nach seiner aktiven politischen Laufbahn den Vorsitz unter dem neuen Namen Institut für den Donauraum und Mitteleuropa und erweiterte die Zielregion um Südosteuropa und die Schwarzmeerregion. Mittlerweile hat das IDM 19 Zielstaaten, was aber insbesondere auch an den neuen Grenzen in unserer Region liegt. 27 Jahre lang begleitete Erhard Busek die Entwicklung hin zu einem regionalen Think and Do Tank, bis sein unerwarteter Tod im März 2022 eine starke Zäsur in der Geschichte des IDM markierte. Als stellvertretender Vorstandsvorsitzender fand ich mich plötzlich in der Verantwortung für die Zukunft des Instituts wieder und wurde von den Mitgliedern des Vereins bei der turnusmäßig anstehenden Neuwahl des Vorstands vor etwas über einem Jahr zum neuen Vorsitzenden gewählt. Diese Aufgabe, die Nachfolge von Erhard Bussek zu übernehmen, hat mich auch persönlich insofern sehr bewegt, als Erhard Bussek Wissenschaftsminister war, als ich 1990 meinen Dienst im Wissenschaftsministerium antreten durfte und die Art der Zusammenarbeit im Ministerium, wie er das Ministerium gemeinsam mit den Beamtinnen und Beamten geführt hat, mich sehr stark bis heute geprägt hat. Ich freue mich sehr, dass wir diese für das IDM durchaus schwierige Phase, ich denke, ganz im Sinne Erhard Busseks bewältigt haben und heute das 70-jährige Bestehen des IDM feiern dürfen. Und ich freue mich ganz besonders, dass auch Frau Magister Helga Bussek heute Abend bei uns ist. Herzlich willkommen. Mehr zur Geschichte des IDM können Sie übrigens der Online-Publikation 70 Jahre IDM, ein Weg von Südtirol bis Moldau entnehmen, die mit Unterstützung des Zukunftsfonds der Republik Österreich erarbeitet wurde und auf unserer Homepage abrufbar ist. Sehr geehrte Damen und Herren, die Arbeit des IDM ist heute, 7 Jahrzehnte nach Gründung, relevanter denn je. Der Angriffskrieg Russlands gegen die Ukraine zeigt die Bedeutung Mittel- und Südosteuropas für die Zukunft auf. Die Themen der europäischen Integration und der regionalen Kooperation sind angesichts der zahlreichen Herausforderungen in Europa essentiell. 2023 als Jubiläumsjahr war ein besonders aktives Jahr für das IDM. Das Institut wird insgesamt bis zum Ende des Jahres rund 70 Veranstaltungen organisiert haben. Daneben stehen zahlreiche projekt- und publikationsbezogene Aufgaben. Erst letzten Samstag erschien die 3. Ausgabe des Magazins Info Europa mit dem Titel Grenzen der Selbstbestimmung. Hinzu kam im Jahr 2023 auch ein besonderes Jubiläumsprogramm mit Aktivitäten in allen Zielländern unter dem Motto Locating the Future. Über dieses ehrgeizige und beeindruckende Programm wird Ihnen unser Direktor Sebastian Schäffer in Kürze mehr erzählen. Die Umsetzung dieses vielfältigen Programms ist nur mit der Unterstützung unserer Partner und der engagierten Arbeit des Teams möglich. Daher möchte ich mich abschließend vor allem bedanken. Bei unseren Unterstützern für die Tätigkeiten des IDM ganz allgemein. Bei unseren Unterstützern für den heutigen Festakt, Land Niederösterreich, Wirtschaftskammer Österreich, EVN, Niederösterreichische Vorsorgekasse, Grazer Wechselseitige Versicherung und industriellen Vereinigungen. Bei unseren Kooperationspartnern in der Region und in Österreich und noch einmal ganz besonders beim IDM-Team, das viel harte Arbeit und Leidenschaft in das Institut steckt, angefangen bei dem internationalen Team der wissenschaftlichen Mitarbeiterinnen über das administrative Team bis hin zu den Trainees. Sie alle arbeiten mit viel Motivation und Einsatz am Erfolg des IDM. Und mein Dank gilt zuletzt Ihnen allen, die heute hier sind, sich für die Arbeit des IDM interessieren, es unterstützen oder mit ihm zusammenarbeiten. Ich wünsche uns allen einen schönen, interessanten Abend und bedanke mich für Ihre Aufmerksamkeit.
And thank you for your continuous work and commitment as chairman of the IDM. As Faulhammer already said, 2023 was a very busy year for the IDM. I think I can speak here not only for myself, but for the entire team. Those who attended the General Assembly earlier today already caught a glimpse of the extensive work completed in 2023. But besides our normal program, with many different events, publications, and other activities, this year we also put into place a special and very ambitious initiatives in all of our target countries, with a team of just 10 research associates. When I joined the IDM as a research associate only in March this year, the implementation of this program was only just beginning. And at that time, I think nobody was yet quite sure whether we would be able to complete all of our planned activities during only 1 year. I can also assure you that back then, when I initially joined the IDM, moderating this event here tonight was beyond my expectations. But the realization of both milestones, for me to stand here, and for the IDM, the success of the anniversary program, became possible due to common factors. The dynamic environment at the IDM, and the constant support and hard work of the entire team. The IDM has a special place among think tanks in this field. We not only work on the region, but also always in the region with local partners. And we cover a great range of countries that play a crucial role in the future of Europe and the EU. In our work, we try to contribute towards the EU integration of the Western Balkans, as well as Moldova and Ukraine. Simultaneously, we remain committed to actively safeguarding and advancing democracy in Central and Eastern Europe and the EU. These characteristics of the IDM are once again demonstrated in our 17 years IDM activities. And about these, we will hear now from our IDM director, Sebastian Schäffer. Sebastian has been working for the IDM for almost 10 years and has been IDM director since 2019. Please, Sebastian, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sophia. I will break protocol because I'm absolutely moved that Mr. Henry is sitting next to you. Thank you so much for coming. It means a lot, not only to each and everyone in the room, I'm sure, but especially to me. Thank you so much. President Wilfing, Ambassador Eichtinger, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank our chairman, Rector Faulhammer, for his introductory words. It is not easy to be sandwiched between such distinguished and excellent speakers, so I was looking at speechwriting 101 to at least be theoretically able to compete. And it tells you to start with a personal anecdote, but not too long to catch the audience. Bear with me, because I will use this elemental level to illustrate the many things that I still have to learn. But you will also be rewarded with an outstanding summary of our regional initiatives that the IDM team has just implemented and also written together, as Sophia just mentioned. And I think she is doing a fantastic job moderating this event, and I think it's only natural that she does that. I don't know about you, but maybe you feel the same that when reminiscing, which is often done at anniversaries, be it professional or personal, we seem to romanticize the past. When I first realized this, I was appalled because I had the sudden realization that I was becoming a father. Old. Anyway, his father, my grandfather, was born in Apatin, a town in the Vojvodina at the Danube. So it could be destiny that 170 years later, I would be here as the director of an institute that carries the name, the river in its name. However, just like the Danube, I was meandering until I arrived in Vienna. I mean, initially, I actually wanted to become a pilot. It wasn't always straightforward, and at no time has it been easy, but I can definitely say that I have arrived. Although my integration is not complete, just ask our chairman, who still has to correct my overly German into proper Austrian German from time to time. I started my professional career at the Center for Applied Policy Research in my hometown Univ. It's a think tank that was founded the same year when Erhard took over the chairmanship of the IDM. Just put into perspective how long we have been here. It was this connection between the CAP, Werner Weidenfeld, and Gerhard Busek who actually brought me finally to the Institute. And I did learn a lot at the CAP, directly from the director, Werner Weidenfeld, but also through the circumstances. Like, you become an expert if the lower third on TV states that. Or how to write policy papers. And how important diversification of funding is. These kinds of things. But there's one particular experience that stuck with me until today in many aspects. One of my first tasks when I started working there was to write an article for the director for publication in the German Bundestag regarding EU-Russia relations. I focused on the Western Balkans during my studies, so that was in many ways a challenge for me. As it needed to be a bit more positive towards the Kremlin, also for the sake of the argument, it did probably also shape a bit the way of looking at things regarding the relationship between Moscow and Brussels, at least until 2014. Anyway, knowing that my name would not appear on this article, I wanted to insert something that will make it recognizable regardless. So I snuck a line from a song of one of my favorite bands in it. It made it past Weidenfeld's corrections, but the editor in Berlin took it out. I still resent him to that day for this, but that's not the story. The line was, we all know it, thinking something is worse than it actually is. Long story short, locating the future was the overall topic of this IDM year, and its 7th decade of existence. In order to determine what lies ahead, and where it can be found, it is necessary to take a step back. When we were taking stock, we discovered several challenges, but also opportunities in our corporations. Initiatives that have been planned early on this year did not materialize. Others organically happened. Things we thought would be easy were impossible, while things that we would have never thought would be became possible. My personal resume of these initiatives is we are a lot better connected and we are much more recognized than I would have assumed. Allow me now to present you all of our 20 initiatives in chronological order. Yes, 20, because we also included the 10. It all started at the 10th International Danube Conference on Culture in Novi Sad. Melanie Yandel gave a keynote lecture about the importance of cross-border cooperation in the cultural sector and why culture must not be neglected in the work of think tanks like the IDM. She also presented the latest issue of Info Europa, Kultur für Mitteleuropa, a cultural guide, which annually highlights cultural developments in the region and counts as one of the main publications of the IDM. From there, we moved to Ukraine. The discussion was called Dilemma of Simultaneity, European Security and Integration. I'm especially happy that we have some friends from Ukraine here in this room. Right? And it was in many ways an experience that taught me a lot of things and that showed how the reality in the country until this day is looking like. I witnessed 2 times air alerts. Thankfully nothing happened, but as we speak here, this is still ongoing. And there are other things happening in the world that the focus is on, but I think it's especially our duty that we do not forget that this war is raging and that this unprovoked and unjustified aggression is still happening. And I hope that within the discussion that we had, that the sign of the opening of accession negotiations will be taken in the European Council later this month. Not each and every event could have been organized in our target countries. Actually, it's only one country because it's not independent and free discussions, as well as the security of the speakers, cannot be ensured. And this is why our event aiming at locating Belarus' future, under current circumstances, was organized as an online interview by Malvina Talik, with Katerina Shmatsina, a Belarusian expert working in exile after the regime cracked down on peaceful protests in the country. We continued to Budapest, where we talked about an empty promise to the Western Balkans with a question mark 20 years into the Thessaloniki summit. We talked amongst others about the staged session at the Hungarian Institute for International Affairs, and also something that stuck with me. I had a long train ride from Przemysl to Kiev, but it almost took me the same time to get from Budapest back to Vienna because I got stuck in Kiev overnight, and I spent my night at the station there. So not only the content directly during the discussions is something that shaped our year. We moved on from there to Bratislava, and in Bratislava, the IDM was a content partner of Globsec. One of the top conferences in Central Europe, the Bratislava Forum on Security and Foreign Affairs issues. What was special here for me about it was that we contributed to a timely event on developments of the European political community and discussed the consequences in the war, on the war in Ukraine for the European security architecture. And I had the pleasure to attend a high-level exclusive thematic dinner, which was called Echoes of War. And I was a panelist at a side event called the European Political Community as an inclusive forum for dialogue. Is it enough? Actually, with the person who drafted the European Political Community for President Macron. He's not convinced of the things that we are recommending, but at least we have been talking with each other. Finally, I also took part in the activities related to the Danube Valley initiative. From there, we moved on to North Macedonia. At the Prespa Foreign Dialogue in Struga, organized by the government of the Republic of North Macedonia and the North Macedonian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Melanie Yandel was a speaker on the panel Youth Engagement in the Energy Transition to a Youth-Driven Green Economy for a Sustainable Future for All. She stressed that the generation crisis finds it hard to differentiate between the real security threats, like the Russian invasion of Ukraine, that caused the European energy crisis, and the one that I just proclaimed as such. Melanie Yandel also recorded a short insight at Lake Ohrid, explaining some of the most important bilateral agreements and meetings happening around the shores of the lake and its proximity. From the waters, we moved on to the water and had an event on the Danube. When organizing our anniversary events, of course, we could not have a dedicated one to the river that stands in the name of our institute. And this is why, exactly on the Danube Day, and in a city located at the Danube banks, Russe, our colleague Malvina Talik opened an exhibition, Life Along the Danube, curated by herself and Mario Lachner from VHS Wien Landstraße, who is also in the room over here. This joint project showcases the vast diversity and international character of the river and its surroundings. It had been previously presented in Vienna and is also available on our website and partially in our seminar. It was actually exhibited in the Elias Canetti house in Russia. We then moved on to Slovenia. Melanie Yandel moderated a talk between the German ambassador to Slovenia, Adrian Kollmann, and the participants in the Summer Academy of the Max Weber program and the Studienstiftung des Deutschen Volkes. Key points of the talk were regional cooperation, also with regard to the previous severe floods in Slovenia and the climate crisis in general, the EU enlargement in the Western Balkans, diplomacy before and after the change of the Slovenian government, the significance of Croatia joining the Schengen area, and the war in Ukraine. Melanie Yandel and Sebastian Schäffer, which is me, also taught the same time. So I could have been 10 days later. You see, I was lying when I said the team was right there. From there, we moved on to Poland. In Warsaw, we had a chance to present the results of our international collaborative work, more precisely a report on civic engagement and youth engagement, which is a result of the EUX2 project run by the IDM in collaboration with Globsec, Iliamed from Greece, and the European Movement Ireland. Malvina Talik started with the presentation of the mentioned reports and was followed by responses from Poland's former Ombudsman for Citizens' Rights and Youth representative. A vivid discussion came after. The event was organized together with the community of democracies and was also attended by participants of the Warsaw Security Forum. From there, and that might some of you surprise we moved on to Germany, and with me, we witnessed a heated debate on whether social media contributed to a more democratic world by connecting people, or if they instead amplify polarization and create information bubbles. Either way, NGOs need to be able to operate in this environment, and for this reason, our colleague Malvina Talik led a workshop on how to improve communication in digital space for think tanks, NGOs, and activists at Revolutionale, the international conference for activists in Leipzig. Participants included Ukrainian NGOs and organizations of or close to Belarusian activists in exile, such as Yasna or Libereko. From there, we went to Montenegro. The EU enlargement represents one of the core topics we are dealing with at IDM, and the region of the Western Balkans has always been our main focus. Therefore, Daniel Martinek moderated a discussion on Montenegro and its way to the European Union. Also thanks to the participation of the State Secretary of the Ministry of Justice of the government of Montenegro, who is very much involved in the accession process of the country. The discussion caught the attention of the Montenegrin media houses that aired a reportage about the discussion attended by almost 100 students from the University of Donja Gorica in Podgorica. From there, we went on to Chisinau and talked about Moldova's candidate status and how think tanks can contribute to EU integration. It was especially interesting for me to return to a city that is so important for me for various reasons. It was the first time I was able to travel there after the COVID pandemic, and we had a vivid discussion on how to improve the capabilities of Moldova to fulfill the possibility to have a quick accession to the European Union. Another country that is waiting to also receive the opening of the negotiations in December is Bosnia and Herzegovina, where the discussion revolved around the presentation of one of the DRC activities, precisely of the Danube Conference strategic foresight project implemented by IDM, where 18 participants from 10 countries of the Danube region came together to develop future scenarios and policy recommendations for the academia and research in the year 2040. The event focused particularly on the digitalization of higher education and research. Lilian Veselinovic, project member from Bosnia and Herzegovina, took part in the discussion moderated by Daniel Martinek, who was in charge of the concept, organization, and implementation of the DRC strategic foresight project in 2022. From Bosnia, we moved on to Romania. I'm not sure if our friend Mihai Rasman is here, but we were present at the annual conference of the Romanian Center for Russian Studies at the University of Bucharest, where we had a special panel dedicated to 70 years of IDM. And it was, for me, especially moving because we had people who knew the IDM, who knew Erhard, who knew more or less the region. And it was a very interesting discussion that came together where we reminisced about the old times, but also found new friends. And the absurdity of nowadays, we had an online participant from the Central European University in Vienna. The overall discussion was also part of a TV report of the Romanian national broadcaster, TVR. That's my son. I have a cue later on. We tried yesterday that he does it in time, but same thick scholars as that. Smaller countries like the Baltic states or Belarus are often discussed only within the context of Russia. And cooperation with the European Humanities University, a university in exile in Vilnius, IDM aimed to explore the extent to which colonial structures and mindsets still shape Eastern Europe and East European studies. In the conference, we discussed the possibilities of decolonizing Eastern Europe. And at the conference, we had participants from Belarus and also from Ukraine. Peter Techi went to Lithuania, where I think we haven't been very active in recent years, but I think it's a good start to pick that up, because it's also one of our target countries. From there, we moved on to Bulgaria. The aforementioned exhibition Life along the Danube presented in Ruse traveled further. This time it was displayed in Sofia at Bulgaria's oldest university, and the event was organized by the Austrian embassy in Sofia. It was part of Austria's USDR events, where in November the presidency was taken over by the country. Our colleague Sophia Weiter and Marina Tanek opened the vernissage. The Austrian ambassador Andrea Kitsch-Böhm was also present, and they also spoke about the 70 Years Initiative. Further exhibitions in Bulgaria are currently actually planned, and I look forward to maybe also travel there. We will then continue actually tomorrow. So Melanie Yandel, I need to wrap up because Melanie Yandel still wants to eat something before she goes to the airport. She is on her way to Tirana and will talk at the conference Albania's Strategic Added Value to the European Union Shaping the Future Together, organized by the Albanian Institute for International Studies, co-organized by IDM. And it's taking place in Tirana, as I mentioned, and she will moderate the panel Regional Cooperation, Stability, and Local Ownership. And then a week later, we will move on to Czechia, where the winning support for Ukraine and other regional cooperation is a cornerstone of IDM mission can foster the overall support for the invaded country, and will be the main topic of the discussion organized in Prague in cooperation with the Austrian Embassy and the Austrian Cultural Forum, both in the city with opening remarks of the Austrian ambassador in Czechia and other experts on Central Europe. Daniel Martinek, of course, will discuss the limitations and possibilities of cooperation of Central European countries in relationship to the war in Ukraine. And then a country that has been sort of evading us throughout the year. We tried several times in several formats to organize something. We finally managed to have also next week a discussion that will be organized together with the University of Rijeka, which is aiming to explore what similarities and common challenges existed in Croatia and also Ukraine before the war, such as transition to a different type of economy, national independence, minority issues, different approaches to national history. The Croatian way of dealing with the post-war situation can be an example for the Ukraine after the end of the war. And then, last but not least, also a cooperation that has been evading us, and now we finally have pinpointed it on the 20th of December, so 11 days before that year is over. We will make it. Peter Techi will travel to Pristina. The discussion to be held at the Cultural Center Barabao will focus on how inter-ethnic dialogues and collaborations can function and be possible beyond nationalizing tendencies. The role of civil societies and culture will be particularly addressed, as well as the conditions for inter-ethnic coexistences, multilingual, minority rights, etc. And I also think it's one of our first events that the IDM is organizing in Kosovo, giving the multicultural civil society a voice. Almost. So you see, there are still initiatives to be implemented. But when we're done, you will find everything on our website. There's a special site dedicated to to it, and I can already now say that this is an outstanding achievement, and I am well aware who made that possible. Our partners in the region, our sponsors and donors, but first and foremost, the IDM team. I'm immensely proud of your achievements, and it's my privilege to work with such diverse people. Thank you so much for all your efforts. Fritz has named them all, but please give them, again, a big round of applause. I'm also well aware that it must not be easy, that if there is a special occasion or I have too much free time, I come up with an outlandish idea, such as organizing 19 events in our 19 target countries in 1 year, and you have to help me implement it. At least the too much free time part should not be a problem for the foreseeable future. Harley, this was your cue, but yeah. Anyway, at least, not at least, but thank you. Danke, Dicky, Jikri, President, voila, and merci. You're fantastic. According to the Open Think Tank Directory, we are twice as old as the average institution in Austria that is a think tank. And we even more than the global mean, which is a bit more than 3 decades. But age is just a number. It's not a quality in itself. The ability to adapt and to changing environments, that is a value. And I would say that the IDM has this virtue. The world is profoundly different than 7 decades ago. And while the IDM certainly has contributed to foster cross-border cooperation, these borders have also changed. Our chairman mentioned it, we started with 8 countries and now have arrived at 19, but it's the same region. Border fences have been cut down. We have at least one person in the room who personally witnessed this event and knew, but sometimes necessary, if we look at Belarus, barriers have been built. But also the IDM itself has an immense transformation, both caused and becoming necessary from outside, but also inside. When I first came personally in contact with the Institute in 2012, I still remember I had a dinner with Erhard at the Drama in Maribor, and he asked me what I am going to say in a speech that was mentioned, in a presentation that was mentioned in the program. The tiny guy from Munich got this attention, his curiosity. Questions he was asked had a profound impact on me. But I would dare to say that this was a different organization back then. A year later, in 2013, the Permanent Secretariat of the Danube Conference, another organization which has an anniversary this year, but with 40s even younger than me, was established at Hangasse, where when I joined the IDM in November 2014, we already were an international German-speaking team where almost no one had a full-time contract. Limited contracts nowadays are an exception. When I took over as managing director, as it was called in 2019, it was unclear if we would make it to 70 years. Today, we have the highest number of employees in the history of IDM, and 2/3 of our researchers are female, compared to an Austrian average of 44%, which is globally also only 3 percentage points higher. Of course, it's all relative, and just as my career path, this will not be a steady way up and forward. We have not been very successful regarding gender balance for this celebration here. We really tried, but we failed. Our budget might be the highest in history, but I found an old document where it had a 0 more at the end. It was in shilling, however, with all the challenges for our region, we could use this amount in euro. We will, of course, continue regardless with our work. Just 2 weeks ago, I had the pleasure to exchange, amongst others, with EU officials in Brussels. One of the things that stood out for me was that with the new situation regarding candidate countries, the IDM is in a crucial juncture. There are many think tanks that have a broad expertise on the Western Balkans. There are think tanks that are specialized in the Eastern Partnership. You will not find many that are experienced with both regions. One of my approaches of staying relevant also for the next 70 years is to find a niche. I believe this is it. Don't worry, I don't plan to stay director for the next 7 decades. Last but not least, the anniversaries give us not only a possibility to reminisce, but also to make a wish. I would be very happy if the expertise and the work of the IDM team would receive the attention it deserves also here in Austria, because it's recognized widely, mostly abroad. As Jesus already knew, the prophet has no honor, or at least little, in his own country. Well, don't I know that? Christoph Schlüben, a conductor, musician, and journalist, added a half sentence to that when he was writing, amongst others, about Brahms, especially in Vienna. So my wish, let's prove Schlüben wrong. He's a pief there, after all. Thank you very much. Good evening.
Thank you, Sebastian, for this impressive overview of all these various captivating events. And thank you also for your important work and dedication for the IDM. There's just one initiative left that I want to introduce to you shortly. What sets this initiative apart is that none of the contributors needed to travel, but now, thanks to this initiative, anyone who wants to can embark on a journey to different parts of the Danube region at different points in time. You can see here the result of this initiative, a book with 16 stories, connected in one way or another to the Danube. On the occasion of the 70th anniversary of the IDM, we created the challenge My Danube Story on the Story One platform. So anyone who was interested could send us their personal Danube story. In the end, we chose 16 of these stories and published them in this book. The stories are very diverse and fascinating, ranging from a story about the fate of the Danube's gradients and stories about the situation behind the Iron Curtain, to personal travel stories, and even a poem about the Danube. It's a small book full of unique little stories, and in case anyone is interested, the book is available online and in bookstores. Some of the authors are also here in the room tonight, so thank you again to those, and please a big round of applause for them. We move on now to some distinguished speakers that unfortunately couldn't be with us here tonight, but who kindly sent us video messages. You might have seen on the program that originally 3 video messages were planned. The one from the former president of Croatia, unfortunately did not reach us. But first now, let us hear some words from the federal president of the Republic of Austria, Alexander von der Bellen. He cannot be here with us tonight, as I said, but we are very grateful that we can still hear his voice on the 70th anniversary of the IDM.
Ladies and gentlemen, for 70 years now, the IDM fosters cross-border cooperation and dialogue, brings together young scientists, gathers international experts at workshops and conferences, and publishes research papers and articles. It rewards scientific work, sheds light upon the nations, welcomes guests from all over the region, and discusses current topics and challenges. For example, how to strengthen a democratic, peaceful and resilient future of Europe. It is is truly a vast variety of projects, publications, events, and activities the IDM has to offer. All of them not only contribute to the exchange of information and knowledge, they bring people together. And that not only broadens horizons and facilitates personal growth, it often sparks creativity and innovation and allows us to address complex challenges more effectively. I want to express my gratitude to everyone at the IDM, past and present, who has contributed to its success. Your hard work, your passion, your commitment have made the Institute a cornerstone for an understanding beyond borders. Good luck in all your efforts locating the future. Wherever you find it, I'm sure we'll find it together. Happy anniversary.
I think these were really inspiring words from the Austrian president that undoubtedly will spark some motivation for our future work. And without further ado, to our second guest who kindly addresses us through a video message tonight, that is Polaschek, the Austrian Federal Minister for Education, Science and Research.
Dear Chairman Faulhammer, dear guests of honor, ladies and gentlemen. It is a pleasure and an honor for me to address you with a short video message on the occasion of the 70th anniversary of the Institute for the Danube Region and Central Europe, IDM. 70 years is quite an age, and while humans may enjoy retirement at that age, the IDM is still in full swing and shows no intention of slowing down. Since its foundation, the challenges in the region have changed, but they still exist. The process of full integration into the European Union of some countries in political as well as scientific terms is ongoing. The central mission of the IDM to foster a democratic, peaceful and sustainable European future through cooperation and dialogue across borders is therefore more pertinent than ever. As Minister of Education, Science and Research, I would like to highlight 3 points when it comes to the outstanding work of the IDM. The strong scientific foundation and analytical capacity of the IDM can help us to better understand the challenges of the region and find ways of addressing them together. At the same time, the IDM makes great efforts that the excellent research carried out in the region is becoming visible and accessible for the broad public. Moreover, its activities, be it communication, training or cross-border cooperation, play a strong and important role for science diplomacy. The IDM helps to build bridges between countries and to create an environment of mutual respect, trust, and equality. For that, the IDM is highly respected in Austria as well as in the whole Danube region. This is certainly also the achievement of the visionary long-term chairman, the late Wilfing, whom I want to especially acknowledge at today's event. Let me close by thanking the whole team of the IDM, including the current chairman, Friedrich, for the excellent cooperation, especially in supporting the scientific advancement of the Danube region, which we are looking forward to continue over the coming years.
These were very generous words from the Federal Minister for Education regarding the work of the IDM in the region, especially the scientific work of the IDM and the IDM's role in the field of science diplomacy. And here a special thanks also goes to the Austrian Federal Ministry of Education, Science and Research that has been supporting the IDM for our program is the Ceremonial Address that will be in German again, and I would like to welcome Karl Wilfing, President of the State Parliament of Lower Austria.
Geschätzte Exzellenzen, meine sehr verehrten Damen und Herren, hochgeschätztes Team des Instituts für den Donauraum und Mitteleuropa. Ich habe diese Einladung, heute hierher zu kommen, zum 70-jährigen Jubiläum des IDM gerne angenommen. Zum einen, weil wir dankbar sind, dass ihr gerade hier in der Herrengasse 13 diesen Geburtstag feiert, weil dieser Raum hier, dieses Haus, wie schon euer Vorsitzender Friedrich Faulhammer zu Recht erwähnt hat, wirklich ein geschichtsträchtiges Haus ist. Hier haben sich über Jahrhunderte die Stände des Erzherzogtums Österreich unter der Enns getroffen. Es war das Landhaus und hier hat unser Landtag des Bundeslandes Niederösterreich bis zum April 1997 getagt, genau in diesem Raum hier. Und erst mit 21. Mai 1997 sind wir dann in die neue Landeshauptstadt nach St. Pölten übersiedelt. Aber dieses Haus hat natürlich darüber hinaus eine weit größere Bedeutung für Österreich, weil sich gerade hier am 30. Oktober 1918 in der provisorischen Nationalversammlung Österreich gegründet hat, nach dem Zerfall der österreichisch-ungarischen Monarchie, aber auch 1945 nach dem Ende des Zweiten Weltkrieges die Zweite Republik genau in diesem Raum sich konstruiert hat. Das heißt, dieser Raum ist ein Schicksalsraum für Österreich und die Donau ist ein Schicksalsfluss für unseren Kontinent, nicht nur für Sebastian Schäffer, sondern für uns alle, weil er uns verbindet, weil wir hier eine Kultur haben, weil die Donau eine Zeugin unserer Geschichte ist und auch eine Mahnerin, dieses Erbe zu bewahren und die Zukunft zu gestalten. Und es ist schon angesprochen worden, es ist sehr schmerzlich, nach 78 Jahren nach dem Ende des Zweiten Weltkrieges, 35 Jahre nach dem Fall des Eisernen Vorhanges, wir nicht mehr damit, also die Hoffnung haben, dass das nicht mehr passiert, dass ein Aggressor in ein anderes Land einmarschiert und wir damit dramatisch vor Augen geführt erhalten haben, dass unsere demokratischen Grund- und Freiheitsrechte und unsere Grund- und Friedensordnung keinesfalls selbstverständlich sind. Und umso wichtiger ist es, und ich bin sehr dankbar, dass gerade auch IDM, und wir haben das in einem sehr, sehr ausführlichen Bericht gehört und können Danke sagen für die vielen Arbeiten, für die vielen Kontakte, für all das, was ihr hier leistet, gerade auch im Jugendbereich, dass wir zusammenstehen, dass all die Länder, die durch die Donau verbunden werden, für ein friedliches Miteinander eintreten und daran arbeiten, dass unsere Werte und unsere gemeinsame Kulturgeschichte erhalten bleiben. Und dort liegt auch schon ein zweiter Grund, warum ich diese Einladung gerne angenommen habe, aus wirklicher Verbundenheit, Anerkennung, Wertschätzung dem langjährigen Vorsitzenden von 1995 bis 2022, Erhard Bussek. Und ich kann mich gut erinnern, ich war damals ein Jugendlicher als er, weil es ja auch hier um diese gemeinsame Kultur, die Länder an der Donau, die Menschen, die an der Donau leben, und er hat das für mich einmal sehr eindrucksvoll beschrieben. Er hat gemeint, Mitteleuropa ist dort, wo über der Eingangstür Kaspar, Balthasar, Melchior ihren Platz finden, wo man unter einer Tuchend schläft und wo dann Gespritzte getrunken wird. Und ich denke, das ist ein wirkliches gutes Beispiel, was uns auch kulturell verbindet. Und ich muss sagen, dass für mich Erhard Bussek immer der lebende Mitteleuropäer war, der schon in der Zeit des Kommunismus, des Eisernen Vorhanges, viele, viele Kontakte zu den Nachbarn gehalten hat und damals jenen, die für Demokratie eingetreten sind, immer Zuversicht gegeben hat, sie unterstützt hat, wo er nur konnte, sich für sie eingesetzt hat, wo er nur konnte. Und vieles von dem, wo Österreich und damit aber auch Mitteleuropa heute noch profitieren begonnen hat, weil diese Freundschaften weit über die Grenzen, weit über die Generationen bis heute andauern und uns hoffentlich dabei helfen, nicht in der Solidarität für die Ukraine einzustehen, sondern eben dieses Mitteleuropa, diesen Donauraum gemeinsam zu entwickeln, dass alle Menschen gleiche Chancen vorfinden und wir aktiv an einer erfolgreichen Zukunft arbeiten. Und für Jan Busig war es immer klar, dass gerade Österreich als ein Staat, so jetzt bewusst im Herzen Europas, eine Schnittstelle zwischen Ost und West ist und daher auch alles zu tun hat, um in dieser Schnittstelle hier verbindend zu wirken und dafür einzustehen, dass sich genau diese Staaten bestens entwickeln können. Und ich bin daher sehr dankbar, dass es auch mit Unterstützung Niederösterreichs immer wieder möglich ist, dass sich Österreich hier sehr aktiv engagiert. Ich denke an die EU-Strategie für den Donauraum, wo wir jetzt auch wieder den Vorsitz am 1. November haben und es unsere Aufgabe sein muss, alles zu unternehmen, dass wir einen Beitrag zur Vernetzung, zum länderübergreifenden Umweltschutz, zum Aufbau von Wohlstand und allgemein zur Stärkung dieser Region unternehmen. Ich denke auch an die Arbeitsgemeinschaft der Donauländer, die wir schon vor 30 Jahren gegründet haben und wo es uns damals noch zu Zeiten des Eisernen Vorhanges wichtig war, Kontakte zu knüpfen, die eben auch in die Zeit hineinbauen sollen, wo hoffentlich Demokratie wieder möglich ist und wir daher auch die Aufgabe haben, alles zu unternehmen, das weiter zu tragen und dass wir daher alle unsere Aufgaben, Anstrengungen, Interessen bündeln müssen, um hier eine intensive Zusammenarbeit auch mit dem Westbalkan, aber vor allem auch mit der krisengeschüttelten Ukraine und der Republik Moldau zu üben. Ich denke, dass es entscheidend für uns ist, dass wir es schaffen, alles zu unternehmen, um Sicherheit und Stabilität auch in der europäischen Perspektive hier einerseits für die Ukrainer wieder bringen zu können, aber auch für die gesamte Region darzustellen. Und gerade auch für uns als Bundesland Niederösterreich hat es eine wesentliche Bedeutung, sich dafür einzusetzen. Ich bin auch der Universität für Weiterbildung in Krems sehr dankbar, dass ihr da ganz ein wichtiger Partner seid und hier gerade auch die Fahne Niederösterreichs und diese Arbeit hochhaltet. Und wir werden, und das kann ich wirklich zusagen, als Unternehmen, auch als Bundesland Niederösterreich, eure Arbeit, aber vor allem die des Instituts für den Donauraum und Mitteleuropa in Zukunft zu unterstützen, weil dieser Austausch wichtig ist, weil wir alles zu unternehmen haben, um hier in Europa eine gemeinsame Entwicklung zustande zu bringen und weil wir auch in all den Bereichen von der Binnenwasserstraße über Tourismus und Kultur, biologische Vielfalt, Luft- und Bodenqualität de facto Nachbarn sind und an dieser Donau uns nur gemeinsam entwickeln können, um all das, was den einen betrifft, auch die anderen natürlich sofort mit zu bewältigen haben und es daher nur in einem wirklichen Austausch gehen kann und wir alle unseren Beitrag dafür zu leisten haben. Ja, 70 Jahre ist historisch keine lange Zeit, aber trotzdem habt ihr schon vieles geschafft, ist euch schon vieles gelungen und ist damit ein gutes Fundament gelegt, dass ihr auch in Zukunft sehr erfolgreich arbeiten werden könntet, weil es eben Kooperation, Wissensaustausch immer brauchen wird, Ausgleich immer brauchen wird und wir daher sehr dankbar sind, dass ihr ein politisch unabhängiger Wegbereiter wart, ein Think and Do Tank, wie das heute schon zu Recht angesprochen wurde, und ganz sicher ihr in Zukunft noch wichtiger seid, als das möglicherweise in der Vergangenheit der Fall war, weil eben wir vor vielen Herausforderungen stehen, auch merken, dass sich gewisse Polarisierungen in allen Bereichen immer stärker zum Ausdruck bringen und wir daher so wieder rein als Quelle der Westintegration gesehen wurde, die Donau als die Quelle für die Ostintegration sehen müssen und alles zu unternehmen haben, Mittel-, Ost- und Südosteuropa weiterhin zusammenzuführen und all diese kulturellen Beziehungen, die wir gemeinsam haben, auch erfolgreich in der Zukunft gestalten zu können. Daher kann ich nur abschließend euch wünschen, dass ihr auch in Zukunft sehr, sehr erfolgreich seid, dass all die Ziele, die ihr habt, aufgehen mögen und dass es uns gelingt, diese Wertegemeinschaft, für die wir auch stehen, Demokratie, Menschenrechte, Freiheit, auch in Zukunft gemeinsam getragen werden und wir damit auch diese globalen Konflikte, die wir derzeit leider erleben müssen und die schmerzhafte Auswirkungen auf unsere Gesellschaft und unsere Wirtschaft haben, gemeinsam lösen können, weil eben ob jetzt Klimaveränderung, Energiekrise, Ernährungssicherheit und all das, was uns gerade im Bereich der Herausforderungen der Migration derzeit gemeinsam beschäftigt, eben auch nur gemeinsam lösen können. Daher danke für die bisherige Arbeit. Wir, und das kann ich wirklich auch als Landtagspräsident von Niederösterreich, aber auch für unsere Landeshauptfrau Johanna Mikl-Leitner, die mich gebeten hat, einerseits zum Geburtstag bestens zu gratulieren, aber vor allem für die Zukunft alles Gute zu wünschen, wissen, dass es nur gemeinsam gehen kann, dass dass wir über regionale und staatliche Grenzen hinweg zusammenarbeiten müssen. Ich bedanke mich daher bei allen, die ihren Beitrag in diesen 70 Jahren dazu geleistet haben und wünsche euch viel Kraft, dass das auch in Zukunft gelingen möge. Ad multos annos, alles Gute.
Thank you, Rector, for this very interesting and kind ceremonial address. As a sign of our appreciation, we would like to give you a copy of the My Danube storybook.
Thank you very much.
I would also like to extend a thank you to Lower Austria and the governor of Lower Austria, Johanna Mikl-Leitner, who unfortunately couldn't be here with us tonight, but who supports the reception later on will be provided. Finally, for our last speaker tonight, we will hear a keynote speech from someone who has a lot of experience working in the Danube region, who has already worked on Danube, and who now serves as the special envoy and coordinator for neighbourhood policy and the foreign policy dimension of the Danube region in the Austrian Federal Ministry for European and International Affairs. Welcome to Martin Eichtinger.
President Wilfing, Chairman Rector Faulhammer, Mrs. Helga Busek, Director Schäffer, and members of IDM's team, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. One of the oldest and most prestigious think tanks in the German-speaking area celebrates the 70th anniversary of its foundation, and we look back on a very successful history of analysis, visionary thinking, and great conceptual work. Congratulations IDM on a job well done. 70 years of institutional history not only means the experience of 3 generations, but to have witnessed major eras and shifts in European history. The IDM spans 4 very distinct periods of our history. The post-World War II period in Austria, from the IDM's foundation in 1953 to the signing of Austria's State Treaty in 1955, the period of the Cold War, the aftermath of 1989 and the EU enlargements, and finally, the new realities in Europe since the 24th of February 2022. In 1955, Austria changed from an object in international affairs to a subject. We regained our freedom and independence, and we were able to root Austria firmly in the community of Western democracies. IDM's founding fathers acted very much under the impression of the Cold War and strived to reach out to the people and peoples beyond the Iron Curtain. This was not an easy undertaking, as the basis for contacts with the population in the Warsaw-backed countries was missing and was only established at painfully low speed within the CSCE process, which eventually led to the Helsinki Final Act of 1975. Do not forget that the Austrian border with the communist bloc was an extremely bloody one. As Professor Stefan Kahner's research shows, almost 800 people died at the Iron Curtain between Austria and Czechoslovakia alone. In the period of the Cold War, the IDM was struggling to find its role and saw quite some ups and downs. In the 1970s, it was short of being dissolved due to a lack of funding. And then came 1989. Europe's annus mirabilis, the winds of change, round tables, cutting the Iron Curtain by Alois Mock, the pan-European picnic, the fall of the Berlin Wall, democratic elections. This filled us all with an unprecedented enthusiasm. For us in Austria, it meant that we were finally joined by Finland, Norway and Sweden in our efforts to become a full member of the European communities. Our accession in 1995 meant that the road was prepared to enlarge the European Union to the east. After the fall of the Iron Curtain, I was part of a working group of the Danube Region, convened by Foreign Minister Alois, from which a wealth of projects in Central and Eastern Europe emerged. The founding of Austrian libraries, the sending of Austrian lecturers, or the establishment of Austrian schools. These projects and all are all closely linked to the legendary Director General for Culture and the Foreign Ministry, Bernhard Stielfried, who was also an ardent supporter of the IDM. The mood of optimism which prevailed in those years was prevalent when in 1995 Erhard Bussek took over the Institute for the Danube Region Central Europe, as it was already called by then. Mitteleuropa, Central Europe, a buzzword which Erhard Bussek so much wanted to be included in the institution's name. For the following 27 years, the IDM was inextricably linked with the name of Erhard Bussek as its chairman. Erhard Bussek had a long history of contacts with dissident groups in almost all Central and Eastern European countries long before 1989. Following the conflicts in former Yugoslavia, the US government in 1996 looked for the right person to head the Southeast European Cooperative Initiative, SECI, the first international instrument for peacekeeping and peacemaking, as it called itself. Ambassador Richard Schäffer, who advised President Clinton on the Western Balkans, suggested Erhard Bussek, the person who was not only familiar with the region, but the person who everybody knew in the region and who had cultivated his network of contacts over the years. I was present at a number of meetings of Ambassador Schäffer and Erhard Bussek in Washington, D.C., where they laid out their plans for a peaceful and economically prosperous Southeast Europe after the Dayton Accords. In 2007, Erhard Bussek published a book entitled 10 Years Southeast European Cooperative Initiative from Dayton to Brussels. SECI, conceived by the United States with full partnership and participation of the European Union, was convinced that sending troops and diplomats did not suffice. It called for a new strategy and approach that would promote economic and social development through regional cooperation. SECI understood that despite the differences, the countries of Southeast Europe shared many mutual concerns. For the international community, SECI was a prelude to a broader instrument, the Stability Pact for Southeastern Europe, launched in 1999, whose coordinator Erhard Bussek became in 2001. Eventually, the Stability Pact was replaced by the Regional Cooperation Council in 2008, which now oversees regional cooperation in Southeastern Europe and supports the European and Euro-Atlantic integration of the region. Erhard Bussek brought all these contacts and experiences to the chairmanship of IDM and made the IDM a hub for Central Eastern and Southeastern European projects and initiatives. At this point, I would like to mention one person who was a pillar in the IDM's efforts to regain its financial and organizational strength, and who stands for so many who have supported IDM over the decades, Ottmar Huber. From 1993 to 2010, Ottmar Huber, a former Director General in the Ministry of Science, was the IDM's Deputy Secretary General. He not only managed the relocation of IDM in new premises, but he also paved the way for a relaunch of the organization under the chairmanship of Erhard Bussek in 1995. The following years were years of tremendous changes in Central and Eastern Europe. As Milan Kundera explained so well in his book A Kidnapped West, The Tragedy of Central Europe, the former communist countries, now newly established democracies, had to struggle to redefine their national identity while they were moving fast towards membership in NATO and the European Union. The IDM was as much an analytical observer as a continuous facilitator of this development. Given the more than 70 years of European integration, the enlargements of the EU took place in a comparatively rapid succession: 2004, 2007, 2013. More than 20 years ago, the countries of the Western Balkans were promised the perspective of EU membership. Suddenly, today, the geopolitical situation after the launching of the Russian war of aggression in Ukraine has breathed new life into the process, and geopolitical considerations are gaining the upper hand. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in the midst of monumental changes in the world around us. War in Europe, the brutal terrorist attack by Hamas in Israel, climate change, questions of supplies of energy, raw materials, of sustainability, massive changes in our societies, demographic developments, migration, artificial intelligence, a world in turmoil. We feel it and our citizens feel it. The old world has gone. A new era is emerging. Foreign Minister Alexander Schallenberg called it a shift in tectonic plates, when the plates are still moving and we do not yet know when they will come to a halt and what the world will look then. However, there is no other place to turn to if we want to create stability and security. It is our neighbourhood, to which we have been closely linked intellectually, historically, economically and politically. No matter what the coming years will bring, this is the region we belong to and where we will find the partners to overcome all challenges. Wolfgang Schüssel often quotes Alexander von Humboldt, who already more than 150 years ago attributed to Eastern Europe an important role in the future. Many fundamental developments of Europe and the European Union will take place in this region and will define the future of our continent. Since its accession to the EU, Austria has stood on the side of her neighbours. Over the last years, Austria has knit a very tight network of cooperation with the region. Slavkov 3, Central 5, Trilateral, Quadrilateral, the cooperation of the German-speaking countries, and the recent initiative of Foreign Minister Alexander Schallenberg of the Friends of the Western Balkans. In June of this year, 7 foreign ministers signed the Göteborg Declaration presented at the European Forum Wachau and called for a gradual and accelerated EU integration of the region. On November 1st, 2023, Austria has taken over the presidency of the European Union strategy for the Danube Region. We have put forward an ambitious presidency program and have offered the EU we have offered the EU strategy for the Danube region as a platform to support the accession processes in the Western Balkans, to assist Moldova on its way to the European Union and to help Ukraine in its reconstruction. Ladies and gentlemen, we are a few days away from a European Council meeting which might open a new chapter in Europe's history. The EU is getting closer to almost double-digit number of candidate countries, and we have to get ourselves prepared for future enlargements. We need to appreciate how far we have come, but we cannot stop here. We need to take our fellow citizens along and explain why there is no safe and prosperous future without enlargement. Erhard Bussek once said, the EU was a birth of brains. Now it has to grow into people's hearts, unquote. We must put our money where our mouth is, and we must follow up on our announcements with actions. There are still barriers in some people's minds when it comes to working with our neighbors to the east. This is why, as a member of the lower Austrian government, I have put so much emphasis on cross-border healthcare projects, because I'm convinced that if you are prepared to entrust your neighbor with your health, then maybe many still existing mental barriers can finally be overcome. Ladies and gentlemen, in a recent article entitled "A Nightmare to be Between Russia and Germania" in the Neue Zürcher Zeitung by Richard Schwartz, he triggered quite some debate. Schwartz suggested that Central Europe is caught between Russia and Germany and should rather be called Transit Europe. It is up to us, who are convinced and dedicated Central, Eastern and Southeastern Europeans, and who believe in the potential of the region, to prove this article wrong. It is not a transit region. It is a region which is characterized by its unique diversity and creativity. Yes, it has more history than it can digest, as Erhard Bussek once said. But at the end, Karl Markus Gauss will be right when he said, Europe's further development can only be accomplished along the Danube. If you need a proof of the intellectual quality of the region, you just have to study the work of the young scientists who received IDM's then Danubius Young Scientists Awards 2023 some weeks ago. What a wealth of innovation and curiosity-driven research. Also, the 2022 Cohesion Report of the European Commission confirms the fact that, and I quote, since 2001, the less developed Eastern European regions have been catching up with the rest of the EU, leading to a substantial reduction of the GDP per capita gap. The high growth rates have been fueled by structural transformation, notably a shift of employment out of agriculture and into higher value-added sectors. End of quote. Ladies and gentlemen, we are entering a new era which requires creative thinking, for which we can sadly no longer rely on convinced Mitteleuropäer like Erhard Bussek or Karl Schwarzenberg. IDM is called upon to continue the legacy of these great minds, their visionary thinking, and IDM's work of several decades. And this work is more relevant than ever before. A long-time supporter of IDM, Ambassador Emil Brix, Director of the Diplomatic Academy, rightly observed that, and I quote, in Austria, we have far too few think tanks about political questions, let alone foreign policy questions, let alone Central European political questions. There's therefore no doubt at all that the IDM is absolutely necessary in its work. It will continue to be so in the foreseeable future because we still have not integrated all parts of Central Europe and the Danube region into the structures we have. And I don't mean the NATO structures, but the structures of the European Union, unquote. I'm delighted that during my time in the lower Austrian government, IDM joined forces with the University of Continuing Education in Krems, and Friedrich Faulhammer, rector of that university, became IDM's chairman. I'm very grateful to him and to Director Sebastian Schäffer and IDM's team that the University for Continuing Education in Krems and IDM have become most trusted partners of the European Forum Wachau. IDM is perfectly placed to play a significant role in the future developments of Europe, from EU's enlargement to the reconstruction of Ukraine. Director Schäffer referred to three major goals he has for the IDM: a consolidated and secure financial basis, strong partners, and the ability to keep the acquired exceptional expertise of IDM and to further increase it. This should allow IDM to focus on core issues: reform of the EU, support democracy in the region, make democracy resilient, and foster enlargement of the EU. So let us believe in the coming future of the region of Central, Eastern, and Southeastern Europe, and let us wish IDM Godspeed for its intellectual journey of many, many more years to come. Thank you very much.
copy of the IDM story. Thank you very much. Yeah, this is a very informative speech that very interestingly outlined the often difficult historical circumstances surrounding the IDM's development and the importance of the IDM's work, especially in the challenging world of today. Dear ladies and gentlemen, we are almost at the end of our official evening program. But before we move on to very well-deserved food and drinks, let me thank a few people and institutions. First of all, I want to thank the whole IDM team and everyone else who worked on the organization of this event and for our regional initiatives. A big thank you also goes to our partner organizations in the region that contributed to the implementation of our regional events. Some of them are also here tonight with us, so please a big round of applause for them.
Niederösterreichische Vorsorgekasse AG, Österreichisches Bundesministerium für europäische und internationale Angelegenheiten, Grazer Wechselseitige Versicherung AG und Industrielle Vereinigung. Thank you for your support that made this amazing event and this beautiful location possible. Highlighting different aspects of the work of the IDM in the past 70 years. This evening showed the importance of the region for the future of Europe and showed the relevance of the work of the IDM in and on the region. It also showed the responsibility that comes with that and the importance of the work the IDM does. With this in mind, we can look forward to the future activities of the IDM in the years to come. And hopefully even in the next 70 years to come. So please, one more round of applause to our tonight's distinguished speakers. Lastly, a special thank you also goes to all of our IDM members and to everyone who is here tonight and who regularly attends our events or is interested in our publications or other activities and who is not yet a member. We strongly encourage you to consider a membership to support the IDM and to contribute to the existence of the IDM also in the future. Should you decide to become a member already tonight, you will also receive a nice gift bag from the IDM, so that is definitely something worth considering. You can also approach the team and my colleagues for more information about the membership. One last info. The clothing will only be stuffed again at the end of this event, so in case you need to fetch your jacket before that, please approach our team members. And now, please join us for the reception kindly provided with the support of the Governor of Austria, Johanna Mikl-Leitner. That is all from me. Once again, thank you very much